Today we are going to be solving coin problems, and we're going to set up a system of linear equations to solve this. And so when I do this, I'm going to write two equations. That's what a system is. It's more than one equation to solve for more than one unknown. And the way I set up the problems is on all of these, we're going to be able to set up a quantity and a value problem. So let's read the first problem. It says on a table there are 20 coins. So this is important information, so I'd underline it. 20 coins, some are quarters and others are dimes. Their value was $3.05. So what we have is a quantity equation that we're going to end up setting up, and we're going to end up setting up a value equation. And then we're going to solve that system using those two equations. So we first need to start with our unknowns, and our unknowns are found in the question, how many of each coin were there? And so we're going to use Q for the number of quarters, D for the number of dimes. And so our quantity is how many there are altogether. So there's Q quarters plus D dimes equals 20 coins in all, because that's what it says. There are 20 coins on the table. Now the value goes with the value of the quarter, value of the dime, times by the number of quarters, times by the number of dimes gives us the value altogether, which was $3.05. Now if you like to deal with decimals, then use the dollars and cents, but I'm going to end up using cents because it's easier to deal with, and so I don't have to deal with the decimal. So a quarter's worth 25 cents. So 25 cents times the number of quarters plus 10 cents for the dime times the number of dimes equals the total value. Now I'm going to change this to cents, which is 305 cents altogether, since I'm dealing in 25 cents and 10 cents increments now. So again, the key is you got to always have the same units when you're trying to solve an equation. So now we're going to go ahead and solve using the elimination method. I'm going to choose to eliminate the d's. So I'm going to multiply each of these terms by negative 10. And so when I do that, I've now got negative 10q minus a 10d equals negative 200. Down below, we just rewrite that equation. 25q plus 10d equals 305. So I'm adding these two equations together at this stage. And when I do that, my d's will end up canceling because they're opposite sign, same coefficient. When I combine these, I have to subtract because they're opposite in sign. It makes 15q. On this side, I subtract because they're opposite in sign. I end up with 105. So from there, all I have to do is do some division. Divide by 15, and we'll get our answer. So in this case, q equals 7 when I do that division. 15 times by 7 makes 105. We still have to find the number of dimes, so we just use the quantity equation here, and we substitute the 7 back in for q. So 7 plus d equals 20. So all we really have to do is subtract the number of quarters, which is 7, from the total number of coins, which is 20, and it gives us the number of dimes, which ends up being 13. So there are 7 quarters and 13 dimes. Well, we can set up another quantity value equation with this problem. Calvin paid $1.35 for a skate rental with dimes and nickels only. There were 19 coins in all. So let's set up our quantity and our value equation. We'll start with the quantity. We don't know the number of dimes, so let's call that D. Let's call the number of nickels N. Those are our unknowns that we're trying to solve for. So D plus N equals the number of coins, 19 coins in all. Well, the value is the value of those coins. We know that a dime is 10 cents, so 10 cents times the number of dimes. 5 cents is a nickel, so 5 cents times the number of nickels, and this all equals the total value here, which I'm going to write in the cents form, so 135 cents. So from this point, I'm going to end up multiplying this top equation. I'm going to do negative 10 again. It's the easier number to multiply by. So each of those numbers by negative 10. So here's my new equation. Negative 10d. It's a minus 10n equals 1/3. Actually, 19. So 19 times by 10 makes 190, and it's negative. And so I'll rewrite the value equation down below. 10d plus 5n equals 135. So I add these together, and I end up with a negative 5n this time equals, and this makes negative 55. So when I'm ready to do that division, the negative signs will cancel, and that's always a good sign. We know we're doing something right if we get positive values for the number of dimes and number of nickels. And it ends up, the number of nickels is 11. You take that 11, put it back in for n, solve for d. So we've got d plus 11 equals 19. So I need to subtract this 11 from both sides, and I end up with d equals 8. So 8 dimes, 11 nickels is the answer. Next one here is a jar of dimes and quarters, contains $15.25, 103 coins in all. How many of each are there? Well, we don't know the number of dimes, so that's D. Number of quarters is going to be Q. So we set up our quantity and our value equations. Let's start with the quantity equation. Quantity is just the number of dimes and number of quarters, but those are unknowns. We don't know them. So we put those variables in place of them. Equals the total number of coins in all, 103 coins. The value equation goes with the value of those coins. So 10D plus 25Q equals the total value. Again, remember to change this to cents. If you're in cents for the value of the coins, you got to be in cents for the total value of those coins together. And so we're going to end up doing the same thing we did before, multiply by negative 10. It's the easier number to multiply. 25 is a little tougher. And so we end up with a negative 10D minus a 10Q equals negative 1,030. So I can add together just the way it is right here, get these D's to cancel. When I do that subtraction, I'm left with 15Q equals, do this subtraction here, we end up with a 495. So from that point, we need to do some division now. Divide by 15. And 15 goes into 49 evenly. Or not evenly, but it does go into 49. It goes in 3 times. And there would be 4 left over. It goes into 45 evenly 3 times. So 33 quarters. So to find the number of dimes, just substitute the number of quarters back in for Q into that quantity equation. D plus 33 equals 103. So from that point, you just subtract that 33 from both sides. And we get the number of dimes, which is 70. So 70 dimes, 33 quarters. Last problem here. A jar of quarters and nickels contains $1.25. There's 13 coins in all. So we don't know the number of nickels, so we'll call that N. Don't know the number of quarters, so we'll call that Q. And we'll set up our quantity and value equations. And so our first problem is to come up with the quantity equation, Q plus N, the number of quarters plus the number of nickels, equals the total number of coins altogether, 13 coins in all. And we set up our value equation. Our value equation starts with the value of the quarters, 25Q. The value of the nickels, 5N, equals the total value. $1.25 is 125 pennies. So we go ahead and multiply by some number. I think it's going to be easier to cancel out the n's because 25 is tougher to multiply by than 5, so 5 is easier. So I'm multiplying every number there by negative 5, and here's what I get. I get a negative 5Q. I've got a negative 5N, and this all equals negative 65. So if I rewrite this equation, I'll just write it on top here, 25Q plus the 5N equals 125. I wrote it on top so I could do the subtraction a little bit easier. And when I combine these terms, again, you get the n's to cancel. Here we have 20Q equals 60 is what we get when we do that subtraction. So we just have one step there of dividing by 20. Nice thing about dividing by 20 into 60, the zeros will cancel, so really the part that you're doing is the 2 into 6, which goes 3 times. So there's 3 quarters. Now I find out the number of nickels. You just substitute 3 back into the quantity equation, in for Q. You got 3 plus N equals 13. So you just have one final step. Just got to move this 3 back to the other side, subtract it from all sides, and leaves us with this N equals 10. So 10 nickels and 3 quarters is our answer. So those are similar problems to what you'll see on tonight's homework. Good luck.